All right. Okay, so we invited IdeaSpace and QBO along with Nextpay.ph, our country's new flag carrier in the Great Y Combinator Accelerator in Silicon Valley, to talk to us about the burgeoning startup scene in the Philippines, as well as give us practical tips on how to spot great startups to work at. Now, by the end of this session, we hope na lahat kayo will come to appreciate yung blood, yung sweat, yung tears that makes startups thrive, that will change the lives of our generation and the next ones to come. So we have three guests today. I'm gonna power through their introductions because they have a lot of accomplishments. I see Aldrich already, but first up, we have Eunice Braga, the session moderator. So guys, active participation to, don't worry. Eunice started her career freelancing for local publications such as Philippine Daily Inquirer and Chalk, as well as managing corporate PR campaigns at marketing communications agency Ogilvy. Eunice leads the marketing, tama ba ang pronunciation ko, Eunice? Tell me if I'm wrong. Marketing
Yes.
and communications activities at IdeaSpace and QBO Innovation Hub, and describes her life purpose as wholehearted storytelling to spark creativity, connection, and community in individuals and organizations. Next up, we also have Mex Talan, Nextpay.ph's growth manager. Mex has 8 years of corporate experience gained across different industries such as banking, fintech, telco. Her experience spans across marketing with a focus on various aspects like product development and design, project management, and brand and portfolio management. She also, sobrang holistic niya, no? She also manages their family business. It's called Happy Electrical Store, a retail store for branded electrical and plumbing products in Bicol, and Happy Town, a build and sell residential homes company in Albay. On her off days, she likes reading, but you'll also find her sipping wine or clearing her mind with yoga. Finally, I am honored to introduce you guys to the co-founder and CXO of Nextpay.ph, Aldrich Tan. He is also the managing director of UXPH, the largest nonprofit, largest nonprofit design organization and community in the Philippines. He is a senior experienced architect and design leader who has led teams in some of the most successful tech companies throughout the US, Canada, and the Philippines, such as, kung hindi nyo to alam, ewan ko na lang, BlackBerry, Getty Images, Artifact, and Remeetly. Being a huge advocate of collaboration in design learning, he helps companies weave design and creative culture into their ethos through consultations, workshops, and mentorships, while helping champion the cause to raise the standards of design practices throughout the Filipino tech community. That was a mouthful, you guys. You have so much achievements. This is such an amazing lineup. And I'm losing my voice, so I can't wait to hear all you have to say and teach us today. So the virtual floor is yours. You may share your screen. You're all co-hosts now.
Yes.
Guys, wait lang. Excited na ba kayo? Type naman kayo dyan. Excited na kayo? Show me a
Good
yes,
afternoon,
yo.
everybody. Thanks for
Good
having us.
afternoon.
Cool. Over to you,
Yes.
Eunice.
All right. Thank you, Cass. Quick bit of trivia for the audience in case you don't know. Workbean is actually one of IdeaSpace's 3 most recent investees from our 2020 acceleration program. So that's the connection. And of course, Aldrich and Nextpay are part of the Kubo community. And as Cass mentioned, one of our more I guess, prominent startups given the recent funding from Y Combinator. So I'm very excited to have Aldrich and Mex joining us this afternoon. So before anything else, I want to give the floor to Aldrich and Mex to introduce NextPay, what they do, and what you can expect from working at a company at such as NextPay. And then after that, we'll go into a bit of a Q&A, and then we'll open the floor for questions from the audience para naman you have as much interaction with us as possible. So, okay, Aldrich, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you again, Eunice and Cass, for having me and Mex here to just talk a little bit about NextPay and what we've been doing over the past, I guess, year and a half or so. So in a nutshell, NextPay helps small businesses in the Philippines manage their finances in a single platform. So we're pretty much, we like to say that we're the best alternative to corporate bank accounts here in the Philippines. because some of you may know, yep, next slide, please, Max. Thank you. Some of you may know that if you have a side hustle or if you've run a business before, or maybe you're involved in a family business, you often have to deal with things like this on the slide. So that's needing to submit tons of documents just to create a bank account, either a personal or a corporate one, and having to open multiple bank accounts just so you can receive payments from people. If you're, let's say, you're a seller on social media, you have to do this just so you can accommodate multiple people trying to pay you. You'll also have to manually deposit and wait long lines at the bank. And as we know, with the recent lockdowns over the past year, that's really difficult, and that's a lot to ask for from people to still go out of their homes, risk their safety, and just deposit money here and there, right? And I'm sure a lot of you have also felt this. The bank queues are ridiculously long and just super hassle. And then if you wanna open up a corporate bank account naman, to pay your employees, now you have to require all of them to open up a bank account in the same bank. And then lastly, among even more problems and obstacles is having to maintain high ADBs, or average daily balances, just in your bank account, just so you can enjoy the services. And as a startup or as a growing business, that's not something most can afford. So it's quite high barriers to entry, and it's a hindrance to your growth. So who really has time for that, right? Oh, sorry, the slide should say you deserve better. But basically, yeah, that's why we set out to build NextPay, and it's the all-in-one banking solution that simplifies how you do businesses. So through us, we help you manage your money in three ways. Next slide, please. So we help businesses collect money through invoicing and digital payments. It makes it a lot easier. So you don't have to open up multiple bank accounts. You can just use NextPay to send to your clients and accept money. We help you manage the money so you see all the transactions that are going through the platform. Um, and and you get reports for your accounting and your finance teams to do that. And we help you send money in batches to any number of employees or even merchants, which is also not quite possible today in today's banking landscape. So yeah, we make it just so much more efficient and easy for businesses to scale. Next slide. Oh, is that it? Okay. Oh yeah. So yeah, we are fully digital. Basically, you can use us on the web. Your money is accessible online at all times. We allow you to connect to, excuse me, allow you to connect to multiple banks and send over to them. There's really almost no requirements except for your government IDs and your business papers. There's no requirements like that, and it's all yours, right? So we don't charge any setup fees, any balances, or anything like that. It's just transaction fees per use. So it's super simple and a lot more scalable for businesses. All right. And yeah, I think that's overall pretty much it, but I'm going to hand it over to Mex to talk a little bit about that later. But yeah.
Hi.
All
So
right.
I'm gonna stop sharing now because that's supposed to be there.
Spoiler.
Spoiler. Oh, sige. But yeah, NextPay has been we publicly launched in 2020, right, Aldrich, and
Yep.
have realized a massive growth. And one of the things that we are proud about also is oh, am I still sharing?
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay. Wait, let me check. Uh, okay, hold on. Really sorry.
Maybe the host can kind of disable that screen
Yeah,
share already.
maybe we can disable the screen share. There you go.
There you go.
There. So we've realized a massive growth, and one of the things that we're really proud about and we're happy is the Y Combinator. Recently, we announced it last March, and we've gained a lot of friends and traction with that one. And also, thank you, Cass. I wasn't able to say this during the introduction. Thank you for having us. We're really happy and excited to be here. Sabi sa akin ni Aldrich bago kami pumasok, how Tagalog should I be? Kasi ang ganda ng design. Sabi ko, Aldrich, yan ang kulay ng fiesta sa Philippines. So, ayan, may mga banderitas. Sabi ko, it's very Filipino. As you know, Aldrich kasi came from Canada. So, but she's Filipino and she grew up here.
Yes.
Yes.
I can speak Tagalog naman. Medyo konyo lang ako. So
Yeah, so that's it for us. At least for me, for us the intro. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Mex and Aldrich. So I'll start with my first couple of questions, and I hope it also inspires our audience to ask their own. Please type it in the chat. Sabi nga sa isang commercial, huwag mahiyang magtanong.
Of
Hindi ko sila
course.
name kasi di sila nag-sponsor sa Career Fiesta. Pero yes. So I guess my first question is for Aldrich. At what point in the startup development process did you start to think about parang culture building?
yeah, that's a good question actually. Kasi culture is so important in a startup and well, really any company, right? Like who doesn't want to work for a company that's pretty cool and actually values their people? So I think ever since the very beginning, that's something entrepreneurs need to think about as they start to build their business. What kind of company do you want to be? What kind of people do you want on your team? What kind of mindsets and attitudes really mean a lot to you, and will really kind of accelerate your growth as a startup, right? So ever since I was working at different companies, I would always ask during the interviews, what's the culture like? How do you guys work with each other? How do you guys treat your employees? What are the benefits? Like, I guess the benefits is really just a nice to have. But for me, what was so important is really the work ethic and how everybody sees and treats each other. And so, coming from being privileged enough to come from different backgrounds or try out different companies throughout my career, I then learned what really, really mattered to me. And that's what I wanted to continue on as I built my startup. And we made sure that the rest of the team feels that way, how much we value them, how much we value their contributions, and how much we want them to grow. And yeah, and then of course there's a lot of books that you read kind of that help educate you in the space of culture building, right? And just learning about, like, yeah, I think here's another thing. At least for us, whenever we see a company that says, "Oh, our company's like a family," or like, I don't think we want to go that direction. I don't think that's the best way to go about it. So we're a really solid team. We're like we were just saying the other day, we're like a community within the company, and we really try to
Sorry,
empower each other.
Aldrich, can I just ask? So, kasi we hear this a lot, diba, in Filipino companies, actually in a lot of companies. I don't think it's a wrong thing to say that we're a family or we treat everybody like family. But I also I also don't feel comfortable in saying na family type because we're here to work, right? So
Yeah.
what are your parang why? Why do you not call your teammates your family? I want them to understand why is that so?
That's a great question. Yeah, so I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with being familial in that sense. Like, how you treat each other respectfully is great. But then once you start saying we're like a family, or we are a family, it kind of, yeah. Thank you, Ruth. It's like setting boundaries, right? So setting boundaries, because Mex brought up a really good point, and I'll let you speak to that a bit more, Mex. But not everyone has the same idea of what a family is or should be or how it functions. Whereas it's much easier to kind of establish what an effective team would look like or an effective company, and that way you respect everybody's boundaries, you respect everyone's ideals that way, and yeah, you just get on the same page a lot easier. And I think yeah, exactly, it also does promote professionalism within the company, because like, I wouldn't want to just say, oh, you're like my little brother or like my little sister, therefore I'm just going to bully you or just kind of overstep and just tell you what to do like I would my actual little brother, which I don't have one. But yeah, maybe Max, if you want to add something there.
Yeah. Because not all people have an ideal family, right? Like if you say to a person, we're like a family here, but what if that person's family is not the ideal one? Then what would that mean to that person? And that's perhaps how the disconnect happens. Good if you have a good family background, then good for you. But unfortunately, not all people would have that. So it's better to say that, hey, we're a bunch of people with the same goal and we happen to work really well together, we jive together, so that it's clear that now we're not a family, but we're people who work well together. And how can you fire your family, right? Paano? Paano siya? So do you even do that? So it's hard. Come to think about it. So yeah, we prefer saying na we're a community, that a group of people with the same goal, with the goal of helping, startups. And for us, it's clearer that way, than saying we're a family. Medyo
Mhm.
blurry.
Yeah. I'm gonna weigh
How do
in
you fire your brother?
on this too. Like as someone who's parang been through burnout in my 20s, and was in like a space where that was an oft repeated phrase na hey, we're like a family. Parang I agree with what Aldrich and Mex have said na it's more helpful to focus on like what is the mission that we're all working towards, what are the values that we espouse as an organization. Kasi yun nga, the family metaphor, not everyone has a healthy family dynamic. The power dynamics at home and at work are different. So, and also boundary setting. If you're a student, you know this experience. And for those who are already working or have had work experience, you know this, especially working from home now, na the the boundary setting can be challenging. So all the more reason to have that and to look for that when you're looking for a place to work for. So which brings me actually to my next question. What kind of company culture did you want NextPay to have, and how did you start to operationalize this? Because I think speaking then to what the previous session was mentioning earlier, like values shouldn't be like parang words on a wall or something that you just get on the first day of orientation tapos wala na. So how are
Mhm.
you operationalizing your own values?
Yeah, that's a really good question too. So I think one of the biggest priorities, and it's fortunately it's becoming more and more prominent and valued today, is the concept of psychological safety in the workplace, right? And actual empowerment and trust with you and your team members. So we really value the psychological safety to the point where, we ever since day one of anybody's, even during the interviews actually, we say, hey, you know what? We really value everybody's input. We want people to chime in. We want people to take ownership and feel like they're actually contributing to the process and the betterment of the company and the product, right? And so, from day one, admittedly, it has its challenges of saying like, yeah, just question or say no to me if you don't think that my idea is correct or anything. But um, it's so powerful in building out a team because the idea of psychological safety is that if people feel more I guess safe psychologically, they feel less at risk to be shut down by their team members, and they feel more empowered to just speak up to anybody in the room. More ideas, more collaboration can actually flow from that, right? And there's a lot more progress that happens. And so even for us, like my co-founder and I see Don, we always say, hey, feel free to disagree. These are our ideas, but if you think that this can be improved further, or if you think that's not the right way to go, tell us, and let's talk through it. Let's understand why, because the common goal is not to be right, but it's to be do what's best for the company, for the customer, and so your powers combined should make the better result in the end. So it's really really important for us to do that, and we have to keep pushing and urging people to speak up and say, hey, what do you think? What do you think? I want to hear what your opinion is and all of that. And so, even though as a company there is an organizational hierarchy, whenever we're collaborating, it's very flat. In the sense that everybody can just like speak up and say no to me and say, no, I don't think that's a good idea, or I think this should be it, or why do you think this? Why do you think this? right? And then actually helps strengthen the everybody's like mindset and how we all think together towards a common goal. So that's one of the things that we really prioritize from the beginning. And then obviously the rest is also being able to have fun while doing it and not to be too I guess too stringent on how we talk to each other, and just be yourself. Really, we want people to come and work for NextPay and actually just bring themselves. I don't want to work with like just like, for example, if Mex was like had a very professional facade of that, I can actually kind of sense that too. And I'm like, okay, Mex, are you really like say being yourself? Are you really comfortable right now?
Mhm.
um I don't want her to hold back. I want her to just really feel comfortable and just be her best self.
Yeah. Thanks, Aldrich. I'll get Max's thoughts, but I think a nice takeaway, especially for our audience, maybe something that you can ask during your job interviews, because it's a dialogue, parang hindi naman siya interview for you lang. It's like maybe ask your like recruiters or the place that you want to work for, like what's an example of them getting it right versus being right. Because I like the point that Aldrich mentioned, like the priority is really to get things right, not to be right.
Hmm.
So that would give you, if you ask something along those lines, that should give you an indicator of whether or not there's a culture that's open to being challenged, to experimentation. And if you're someone who values that, then you'll know na parang that's something that's really lived out in the company.
Yeah,
Mix.
definitely. Oh, if I may add, sorry, Max.
Yeah.
If I may add, really quick. You know, obviously the concept of ego is going to be there. Everybody has an ego. Everyone has to be
Mm-hmm.
sensitive and mindful of that, right? So it is very challenging sometimes to want to put your ego and be like, well, I have experience doing this. But it is very challenging to try and put that aside and focus
Mm-hmm.
on what's actually right for the company and for the customer. But continuous practice there, I would say that's also like a mindfulness exercise, and that's
Yep.
something we also constantly promote for everybody to do. Just be mindful of that and how you're talking to other people. So, yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Max.
Yeah, so I want to speak about how we operationalize. Kasi parang, this is a good question. How do you actually operationalize culture, right? Um, and as someone who was hired by Nextpay, so hindi ako founder, I'm going to be someone from the outside coming in. And what was really important to me was, kita ko sa founders kung ano yung kultura ng kumpanya. That's very important. Because when you get interviewed, and hindi mo maramdaman yung culture ng company from the person interviewing, it's so hard to decide, right? So it's very important also for the founders and for the leaders of the company to actually live that, kung ano yung culture that they would want to have, the culture that they would want the company to have. And how do you operationalize it? So in one of the conversations I had with Aldrich before, sabi ko, Aldrich, NextPay is going to do a lot of things. Ang daming exciting na things, ang daming exciting na products that we want to offer to our customers. And si Aldrich mismo yung nagsabing, Mex, it's not wise. Sabi ko kasi we need to hire this person, data analytics, this person. So we can do things faster. Sabi ni Aldrich, actually, Mex, no. We should grow slowly. And sabi ko, bakit? Sabi niya, because we want to make sure that people already imbibe the culture in them bago ka, so you could pass it down to the next hires effectively. So that's a new thought to me, na parang oo nga naman pala, kasi isipin mo, if you grow so fast na hindi mo pa nga na-imbibe yung culture ng next piece sa sarili mo, then how are you gonna pass that down to your teammates, right? To the new hires. So it's very important also to make sure that everyone has that, and then you slowly and surely grow.
Hmm. I guess like I wanna just to add as well, like um when we say grow slowly, we don't mean like super slow, because startups do have to move fast, but we have to grow I guess be stable about it. intentional. We have to be mindful. Like, okay, it takes maybe X months for somebody to really start to fit into the role, and we have to take that into consideration. We can't just be like, okay, you're hired, and then go do it. And then it's just really a lot of overhead as well to manage that sort of growth and knowledge pass down. No, Eunice, you're muted.
Oops, sorry, I was on
Yeah.
mute. Sorry. Yeah. So Mex already hinted at this earlier. And I wanted to ask you about your own journey. Now, you basically went from the corporate setting to working for a startup.
Yes.
What attracted you to work for a startup, and what differences, if any, did you notice?
So during the pandemic, I would see posts in Facebook and LinkedIn about startups, getting investments here and there. I would see posts from Joseph of Humble Sustainability, for example, and that got me really curious about the startup space. Never ko siya consider before. And then I thought to myself, I've been in the corporate world for 9 years. I continuously help out in the family business. So since I was looking for a job at that time, why not complete the list of employment types that one could have by joining a startup, right? Kompletuhin na natin. So I did have stereotypes back then about startups, and now I realize they're misconceptions. Before I thought, joining a startup, it's like throwing yourself in a blender, tapos wala na. Akala ko ganun dati. But fast forward a few weeks later, I had an interview with Aldrich and Don. And it went really well. Yun yung sinasabi ko kanina, I felt the vibe of the company through them. And it piqued my curiosity all the more. Kasi nagustuhan ko yung vibe. Sabi ko, parang iba to. Parang very friends, Hindi yung parang ako yung boss, ikaw to. Hindi. Very friends. Like we'll work together. And I told myself, okay, I'm not gonna forgive myself if I don't try. So I went for it. And now that I've been with Nextpay, the differences that I felt, alam mo actually, na-realize ko, yung corporate and startups are similar in a lot of ways, but different in approach. And it's mainly because of the size. So, for example, corporates, gusto nila nakaka-save sila in their expenses. Ganon din naman sa startup. Yung corporate gusto nilang mag-grow lalo, and ganun din ang startup. So the goal is very, very the same. Siguro yung difference lang would be, in a corporate, pag pumasok ka sa corporate, there are already processes in place that you have to follow. Pero sa startup, you create your own process. So it's going to be more challenging in a sense that you gotta do research, you gotta do an elimination process to make sure that the process that you are going to set up is correct. But then again, sabi nga ni Aldrich, we pivot. Kung kailangan mag-pivot, kung kailangan mag-change, pwede. Yun din naman maganda sa lean na team. And then, sa corporate naman, you report to your supervisor, di ba? Sa startup, and sa corporate, meron kang maker-checker tandem. Sa startup, kayo ng boss mo, parehas na nga kayong maker, parehas pa kayong checker. May gano'n. So you really do things together. Sa corporate, at least sa Philippines, napansin ko sa US siguro or in other countries, iba naman siya. Merong 9 to 5, at least before the pandemic, di ba? May 9 to 5. Sa startup, own time, output-based. So, ganun din naman sa corporate minsan, pero mas nafe-feel ko yun sa startups. Tapos, dahil mas konti ang tao sa startups, mas natitrain ka to be resourceful, kung pwedeng hindi ka gumastos, kung meron kang mahahanap na ibang solution for your problem, then dun ka na lang. It really trains you to be resourceful and to save money. Hindi lang in working for a startup, hindi nga lang, you don't only improve like as a career person, you only improve as also a person. Talagang like ngayon, pag kailangan ko ng iPad, iisip ko, kailangan ko ba talaga ng iPad? Yung mga personal improvements nang mangyayari sa'yo because of the training that the startup gives you. Sa corporate kasi, admittedly, maraming talagang pera yan. So pag sinabi mong, kailangan ko ng iPad, o sige, ito, kailangan mo na iPad. Sa startup, medyo mag-iisip ka ng konti, i-justify mo talaga. So those are the little differences. Aldrich also has an experience working for corporate. So I'm gonna let him speak for that one also.
Yeah. Yeah, really good insights naman. So kind of like what Max was saying, right? Like I guess I just want to point out that not all startups function this way, right? But there is an overall trend that they're starting to realize, okay, these are better practices. I wouldn't say best practices because it's really different per team, but like some more effective practices that help startups get stuff done. And it's probably going to be fairly different per company. So that's our disclaimer. Um, and yeah, like in a startup, you're definitely you definitely need to be a lot more resourceful and creative and more effective and mindful of your time, just when you're executing task and kind of trying to see how it will affect the rest of the people on your team immediately. Like, I guess you can feel the effects of your work a lot faster than maybe I guess depending on the corporate too, because corporations usually have different silos, different departments, and they have much more stringent processes, right? So it's going to go through multiple rounds of reviews, or it might take weeks before something actually gets done, whereas startups, you could actually see your work right out in the market like the next day, just because you have to move really fast. It's not going to be perfect, but you just need to do it. So for me, I've had experience in corporate and agency and startup environments. Each one has its own, pros and cons. So for me, after going through all of that, I personally realized like I really enjoy the speed, and I guess the mindset required to work in a startup. For a corporation, for me, unfortunately, what I had encountered was there was a lot of bureaucracy, there was a lot of politics involved, and it became more about people hitting their own targets rather than doing what's right for the customer and for the business. But I guess I also want to say that not all corporates are like that. There's some really amazing corporations that are also learning to operate more like startups within their own departments and stuff. So just I guess being careful of that. And an agency setting naman, it's also very fast paced. But for me as a designer as well, what I did not enjoy about the agency side of things is I did not get to see my work doing design from start to finish. So I might come in the middle of the process, do the work for the client, check off all those lists, and then I'm on to the next project. And I didn't really like that. So for me, I wanted to grow something from the ground up and really see it till it reaches the customers and see the impact it actually has for them.
Minsan it really depends on you din naman as a person. Ano ba yung gusto mo?
Yeah.
Gusto mo ba to learn the process like how the big corporations are doing it? Then
Mhm.
go the corporation route kasi marami ka talagang matututunan, processes in place. Kung gusto mo naman yung I want to build things, I want to have experience the immediate results of my work, then magsa-startup ka. So it really depends. You have to know kung ano yung gusto mo. Both companies have their advantages, but what I can assure is marami kang matututunan both ways.
Mhm.
And there's also an advantage galing kang corporate, papunta kang startup, kung
Yep.
mag-switch ka man. There is an advantage to that because you already know what the big companies are doing, and you can use that to suggest on how you can do things better for your startup.
Yeah.
And it's the other way around. Kung gusto mo naman mag-startup, kung galing ka sa startup and you wanna go to the corporate, pwede mong madala yung practice of how do you build a process, how do you make
Mhm.
things work, kasi you have an experience of actually building it from scratch.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about knowing where you are and where you want to be.
Thank you. Like those are super helpful pointers. So I hope our attendees are taking down notes. Kasi sobrang dami kong na-pick up actually. Hingi ako ng copy ng recording ng session na to after this. So I think it's that clarity and parang there's no one way to build a career. There's no one way to build a successful career. Like uh hindi naman siya one ladder lang. So
Mm-hmm.
there are many different paths to success, and it really depends on parang what you also want to achieve in your own life, what do you want to learn as well. So let's jump into that. What advice would you give to college students, young professionals, or even career shifters looking to work for a startup?
Maybe you want to start off, Max?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think my advice to them is experience the fun of not knowing. So, not having everything figured out is okay. I realize, napapansin ko yung mga college graduates ngayon, parang they feel the pressure na dapat pagpasok nila sa kumpanya, alam na nila lahat. No. Most likely nga yung pinag-aralan nyo hindi mag-a-apply sa work. Baka. Like me, I'm a communications graduate, tapos nasa fintech world ako. So, it's
Yeah.
really okay not to know
Same
everything.
here.
Diba? Um, Uso yan dito sa Pilipinas, diba? Career shift right after college. So,
Like mine was broadcast communication. If I followed my traditional path, I would have been working in TV or radio. But hey, now I'm
same.
working with startups.
Diba? And it's really okay not to have all the answers as long
Mm-hmm.
as what's important is you're willing to learn. And in learning, talagang may mga sacrifice. You have to be patient. You have to put in time. You have to put in energy for that. As long as meron ka nun, okay lang yon. And even your founders don't know the answers to everything. See, Don and Aldrich, talagang they will tell you, Max, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. And in the process of learning, and in them not knowing, yun yung chance mo to research. Ano ba yung pwede mong maiambag? So, it's really teamwork. In the process of learning, what I can promise you is you will learn a lot about the business. Ako, marami akong natutunan sa Nextpay. 3 buwan pa
Mm-hmm.
lang ako dito, pero ang dami ko nang natutunan. You will learn about the business, you will learn about people, and you will learn about yourself.
Yeah.
That's my advice for college students. Okay lang not to know everything. Pumasok ka sa kumpanya, wala kang alam, okay lang 'yun, but you have to be willing to learn. And mafe-feel din naman ng mga ka-team mo 'yun from you.
Mm-hmm.
Well said. Yeah, so for me naman, pretty much echoing what Max or Meryl said, right? But it's important to note that, I mean, if you're willing to work at a startup, yeah, we're saying in the comment section, embrace the unknown. There's gonna be a lot of ambiguity here and there. Again, it also depends on your team. It depends if they know or don't know what they're doing, or if they want to empower you to really learn and figure out how to do something right. Or it also depends on their risk appetite, all of that stuff. I think the one of the biggest value, especially a fresh grad can get from working on a startup, is being able to just really try and try new things and learn as fast as you can, and see what fits for you. Because I've come across a lot of people who are scared of like the course that they're taking, and they might think na, okay, like if I study this, that's it. That's what I have to be. If I study engineering, that's my career, period, right? But that's the great thing about being a fresh grad, and is because you've just started your journey. What are you afraid of? Like, keep trying new things out. And obviously there are people, like, you gotta pay the bills, so you have to get resourceful as well. Maybe treat yourself as a startup. Like, you need to be able to adjust as you go, based on your learnings, based on what you're understanding about yourself, based on the environment that you're working with. And yeah, just try things out. I don't think it's not fair to yourself as well to say that, hey, well, I've already studied maybe for 3 or 4 years. I may as well continue the rest of my life doing this one thing that I don't actually enjoy. Like, why would you do that to yourself? Right. So I've come across so many career shifters in their late 20s, 30s, even like 40s, just trying new things out. And that's great because you just need to continue learning. And yeah, don't torture yourself by pigeonholing yourself into one career path.
Yeah, that's correct. It's the only
So
way you know yourself.
Max Aldrich and Eunice, if I could just ask one thing, because I want the people here to like take away something super super concrete apart from the amazing stuff. Ang ingay na lang chat, by the way, guys. But if there's one question, diba? You all are in, diba? You're startup founder, Aldrich, diba? Max, your growth manager. Ikaw rin, Eunice, you've worked with so many startups. Kung meron kayong one question na dapat itanong ng tao sa startups to really reveal a lot about the culture and whatever it is that's happening in the company, except for the what is your culture? Kasi that's super
Mhm.
typical na.
Yeah.
Ano yung dapat nila itanong?
That's a fantastic question.
Hirap, no?
I
Sorry,
think
could you?
for
Oh, yeah, go ahead. You need to start.
sorry, you want parang what is that
Like
one question that we can ask
yeah,
that
one
reveals
question.
culture? Okay.
Yeah, except for what is your culture?
Except for what is your culture? Okay.
Siguro
Hmm.
ako, I would say, um, how did you help or how did you treat that teammate of yours that committed a mistake?
Hmm.
How did you handle that
Fantastic.
situation? Kasi
Fantastic.
dun mo makikita kung ano yung kultura. Are they gonna help? Are they gonna help the person? Lalo ba nilang i-coach or lalo nila ilalaglag? Kasi you won't when you join a startup or when you join a family business or a corporation, definitely you will make mistakes because you're
Yeah.
learning. That's the only way you will learn. And doon mo mafe-feel yung culture ng company. How will they treat that employee who committed
Mhm.
a mistake? Yeah, Aldrich a while ago was talking about psychological safety. And for me,
Yeah.
that's super duper important. That would be the question, I think, that I would ask.
Ang
So
ganda. Thank you so much, Max. Aldrich, you wanna add to that?
yeah, so for me, in the past, how I evaluated places that I'm applying to, right? Very similar to Mex. It's like how do you treat each other? But I guess I like to ask this question to each person that I'm interviewing, or that is interviewing me. I say, okay, what makes you stay at your current company, or why do you keep working here? What do you love about it? And then that actually opens up like a world of answers from them. They end up talking about like well, obviously there's gonna be the benefits, the pay, blah blah blah, but they end up talking about what makes them really happy at their company, and then you'll be able to kind of extract a little bit of insights from that. So yeah, I think that that's one really good question to ask is what makes you happy, what makes you stay there. If I may add, sorry, Cass, to go out of scope of your question, but um, I also ask, and I would encourage all these all you job seekers to ask this as well. Is what do you expect of me aside from the job description? What will you expect of me? And and if you can, if you want to, and I highly encourage you to, what can I expect from you? Right, so that also like from the hiring manager, like, hey, how can I learn from you basically? How will you help me be the best employee or the best version or the best team member to add to the team? And I think that also will tell you a lot about how it might look like to work with them or for them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you,
And I
Max.
think
Thank you, Aldrich. Eunice,
yeah.
ikaw.
Yes. I'm gonna take this from like my younger applicant self, and then also from my now um 30 something. That's 30 lang naman, 30-year-old manager self. So like I think when I was applying for one of my second job, my first job was like stunningly short, 3 months. Parang I realized hindi kami fit ng culture, and then I left for a different company. Um, the thing that I asked them during the interview that I feel like got me hired was basically, what are you gonna do for me? Because like it's clear naman what I can do for them. Like I did the test, they have my CV, we did the interview. But like I towards the end of the interview asked that, like, what are you going to do for me? Because again, I'm going back to like every interview, it's a conversation. It's a chance for the recruiter to find out if you're a good fit. It's also a chance for you as the applicant to find out if you're a good fit. Somebody in the comments was actually asking na parang like college grads, fresh grads na ba hinahabol nyo? Actually, no. We do talk to a lot of undergrad applicants. Actually, 2 members of my team did not finish their degrees. And they're 2 of the best people I've worked with to date. So like in the startup world, you'll see parang that yung traditional credentials that people typically look for in maybe older, more traditional types of companies, it doesn't apply as much. Kasi parang as Mex and Aldrich were saying, a lot of the work that startups do is output based. So as long as you can produce, can contribute, not just to like the business, but to the culture, to building processes, systems, parang infinitely going to be more valuable than like the diploma or lack of on the table. So I just want to put that out there because I think that's an important takeaway. The thing I would ask now, if someone were to, parang if I were to apply somewhere else, would be like, tell me a time, to the hiring manager, tell me a time you made a mistake, a very public one, and then how did you handle that? Because that would tell me if parang the hiring manager has had enough self-awareness, parang china-challenge ba niya yung sarili niya, yung assumptions niya, and then paano niya hina-handle yung potential hiya or shame that comes with making a mistake. Because that's very important as a man, parang talking to leaders or managers na they have to be willing to be like vulnerable and open about not just their successes but also their failures. Otherwise, parang it's a culture where everybody else makes mistakes but I don't. And that's not conducive to a healthy workplace. Another thing that I would ask would definitely be like how do you facilitate like work life integration, not necessarily balance, or like how do you encourage people to bring their whole selves to work. Parang, and their answers could be, parang I would look at it as like, ano yung basic na nahihit nila? Is it like, do we do things that allow us to integrate teams, get to know each other better? Or parang is it parang even deeper na like, oh, if someone in my team shows an interest in a particular activity that's outside what my department does, do I allow them to shift on another department to learn what they do? Do I allow them to eventually move to a different department if they want to? Do I allow them to take on side hustles, side projects so they can develop themselves? That I think would reveal like a lot.
Yeah,
I love
definitely.
it.
Sabi nga
I
nila
love
ngayong
it,
work
guys.
life.
Because like the thing I now know, I mean, outside of my work at IdeaSpace and QBO, I'm also actually like a life coach. Like I have a certification. Parang values translate to goals, translate to action. So parang values are not parang statues or parang words on a wall. Like you can always find a way to like see that lived out and actually see that measured. So you can always ask questions parang that would allow you to find out if somebody practices values. So for example, like care. Para if a recruiter tells you, oh, I care about you, the employee. And I'm like, okay, um, anong typical hours nyo in a workday? Parang how difficult is it for me to file and like get my leave approved? Kasi parang if you tell me you care about me, but like I have 300 layers to go through before I can even get a day off, like you don't really care about me. uh, Parang do you like encourage me to take on breaks? Do parang my managers take on breaks? And if naka-break sila, nag-check pa din ba sila ng Slack or like completely off the radar sila? Then you start to find out, okay, like this is how things really are, and you can find out like what you can and cannot tolerate. So yun.
Grabe, I love it. Guys, thank you so much, especially dun sa mga nag-comment na they love this question. I really want you to be able to ask like really, really smart questions whenever, you go up for an interview because one of the reasons why we're doing this, again, diba, a dialogue with you guys kasi it's not a one-way street. The reason why we created Workbean, guys, in the first place is we want you to see what's in it for you. Diba? Rather than what's in it for them because you're the one who's giving them your skill, your hard work, and your talent, diba? So ask them what they can do for you. So thank you so much, Max, Eunice, and Aldrich for your insights. I'm sure they will all take away so much from this talk.
Yes.
Up down natin yung question ni Lou. So we have like, a minute left. So let's do a final question from the audience, if that's okay. Eunice, Mex, and Aldrich.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Sige. So Aldrich mentioned daw that not staying in a company if it isn't a good fit, diba? So how soon can we say we are not a good fit in a company after na-employ ka na? How long do you keep holding on? Wow, parang pag-ibig lang. How long do you keep holding on and trying to make things work if it's painful?
It's really up to you, and your tolerance level and how far you're willing to like kind of push yourself to try and make things work. There are
Yeah.
definitely some signals and signifiers, right? For example, maybe you're trying to work with your manager or your other teammates, and you're just getting nonstop pushback, and you just can't get anything done. And it's really, really hard to try and kind of sway the crowd in a certain direction if they all don't see what's wrong. Or I mean, I guess it goes two ways, right? Like one, it could be that they're the problem, or maybe it could be that you're the problem. So maybe you might want to check yourself before you wreck yourself. No. But I think for me, I would give myself I think that's also why there's a really good, a lengthy probation period, which is a standard of like 6 months or something, right? Here in the Philippines. But for me, I would give myself anywhere from 3 to 6 months to just really evaluate how much I'm growing from the team, how much they're working with me, and trying to empower me and trying to focus on my growth and vice versa. And if there really is a lot of opportunity for me to be fulfilled here and for me to make my
Yep.
mark and deliver what I was hired to do, but if I'm getting nonstop pushback or things are just like too frustrating to get through, then I would consider looking around elsewhere.
Yeah, same here. If you already feel now you're dragging yourself to your computer, then that might be a sign. But like what Aldrich mentioned, wag agad-agad. Evaluate it first. And I'll be practical about it, I'm gonna look at my bank account, like, afford ko ba na mag-resign agad? Kasi baka mamaya hindi mo pala afford mag-resign.
That's
It's
true. That's
hard.
very true.
Agree.
It's so hard.
Nakalimutan natin yung bank account. Super good advice. Sobrang
Yes.
practical ni Mex. I love it, guys. Check
Yes.
yourself before
Make sure
you
you
wreck yourself.
you balance your emotional state with your actual like
Financial
practical
state.
financial practical
Oh,
decision.
Ruth ha, alam mo na.
It's kasi
Yeah.
it's hard to look for a job ngayon. Sig- Siguro some people it takes them a year, some people it takes them 2 months. So evaluate mo muna how long it will take you to have a replacement, or kung gusto mo ba mag-freelancer or build a business of your own, but make sure that your bank account can afford it if you choose to resign. But then again, at the end of the day, it's really work-life harmony and your wellness that you
Yes.
should prioritize.
Amazing. Thank you.
Agree.
Okay, sorry guys ha, pero so sorry. We have 0 minutes left, pero kasi ang ganda ng usapan, so humaba talaga siya. But thank you so much, guys. I know everybody here, I know you have so much more questions because these panelists we have now, Eunice, thank you so much for asking those, Kickstarter questions earlier. But
Yes.
if you have additional questions, up to you, Aldrich, Eunice, and Mex, diba? If you want them to add you on LinkedIn, connect with you guys, ask questions. But don't forget, you guys, NextPay is hiring people as well.
Oh
So if
yeah.
you like what you're hearing, diba? Mex, maybe you can talk about that for a quick second there.
Yes,
Oo nga,
I
no?
can. I definitely can. So NextPay is hiring. Sabi ko nga, we are good. Let me pull up the slide and share my screen. Where is that? There you go. Okay, can you see my slide?
Yep.
Okay. So we're hiring. The team is definitely growing. So we're looking for engineers primarily talaga. QA engineers, backend engineers, senior backend engineers. You see that on the left side. And on the right side, you see the team. So that's our growing team. Parang ilan na tayo, Aldrich? 15?
Yeah, we have 15 full-timers and we have a bunch of interns and some contractors, so that's around 22 of us.
Yeah.
And we're
And
growing.
Here are the benefits that you get being part of NextPay as a full-time employee. So, yep, you're a full-time employee. We are completely remote. So, we've been remote even before the pandemic. So, kaya magpatakbo ng fintech startup kahit nasa bahay tayo, you guys. We get full benefits and we have flexible work hours and we have a team cat and her name is Nutmeg. Aldrich is the one taking care of Nutmeg. Did you see what a picture ni Nutmeg? Ito siya! That is Nutmeg, our team.
Oh,
She is the Chief Meow Kitting Officer of NextPay.
hi, Nutmeg. Thank you
I
so
love
much,
it.
Mex and Aldrich. Guys, I
You're
promised,
welcome.
di ba?
Thank
I
you
promised
also.
you maraming opportunities. And meron ding opportunities for you guys to apply to IdeaSpace. So, Eunice, do you have something
Yes,
to show them?
yes, I do.
Yay!
Let me
Guys, super
just
daming opportunities. Let's go.
quickly flash my screen. Ayan. So I'm gonna breeze through our our usual slides. So we collaborate with a lot of different organizations across the startup ecosystem. Our community is home to close to 500 startups. So exciting. And yeah, we're hiring. So the pinaka-immediate part is we're actually looking for someone for our marketing and communications team. Fresh grads, undergrads, those with a bit of work experience, all welcome to apply. Please message Cass if you're interested. She'll probably message me then as well. And that particular job listing is also on our LinkedIn and Facebook pages. And then also a number of our startups are hiring. Automart was here earlier, so I'll breeze through that. Bizkit as well. We'll share this info with the Workbean team. So a lot of IT roles and business dev roles. Brookie, based in CDO. So it's not just within Metro Manila, but outside as well. MedHive is also hiring for a sales role. Cerebro is looking for interns. They're an edtech startup and they're looking for someone interested in working on instructional design. And then Taxumo is also looking for folks on the UI UX front, software engineer, and then also interns as well. And then for IdeaSpace, we're also looking for interns for our marketing and comms team. So if you're interested, some of the benefits we include for interns include a lot of learning opportunities. You get to attend the same learning sessions that the startups in our programs do. So it's like getting an education in the startup ecosystem itself. So yon, please get in touch with us through these email addresses. And then also, please reach out to Aldrich and Mex for the open job positions at NextPay. So yeah, there's a lot of startups hiring. It's a very wonderful time for the startup ecosystem. And if you're interested in being part of this space, we'd be more than happy to have you.
Thank you. And we're hiring interns
Ooh.
din pala sa growth in we're hiring growth interns. So college students and fresh grads are super duper welcome.
Grabe, daming opportunities. Thank you so much, guys. We have what, 270 people and counting. You guys, you have a place. There's so much jobs available for you. Okay, so thank you so much, IdeaSpace and NextPay, Aldrich, Eunice, and Max. Thank you so much for your energy, for your time, and your insight. I'm sure everybody can agree with me that we enjoyed that session and we learned a lot.
Thank you.
Do we agree?
Thank
All
you.
right. All right. Amazing panel, amazing session. It's really onwards and upwards for Filipino startups. So